Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. The Other Side lets you hear directly from the most connected players and observers across the spectrum of politics in Mississippi. From breaking news to political strategy to interviews with candidates and elected officials, we'll bring you facts, perspectives, and context that helps you cut through the noise and understand all sides of the story.
I'm Geoff Pender with Mississippi Today. I'm joined here this morning with Taylor Vance, my colleague. Hey, Taylor.
Hey, Geoff.
And we have as our guest today Mike Hurst, the relatively new chairman of the state Republican Party. Somebody a lot of folks know have known before that. Mr. Hurst was previously the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi. You were appointed by President Donald Trump. And previously, I believe you served as an assistant U.S. attorney there, prosecutor. And before that, you helped found and direct the Mississippi Justice Institute, which has, done a lot of high-profile legal work. And if I recall correctly, you had some legislative experience, congressional experience with Representative Chip Pickering back then, and served as counsel to the Constitution Subcommittee of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. And I'm sure I could go on.
Yeah, the main thing is, Geoff, I can't hold a job. So
is that it?
Yeah. No, and thank you for the invite. Thank you for having me here.
Sure. Welcome, and gonna ask you, I guess, first off, how's the new job going? Been really calm and quiet.
Well,
right?
Yeah, exactly. No, thanks again. No, the new job's great. I've been party chairman for about a month now. Had a great state convention, had real enthusiasm. People are fired up and very honored and humbled to be asked to serve in this role. Never once in a million years thought I would be asked or be considered, or frankly even thought about doing it. But when the governor asked me, when others in the party asked me, there's a need there, and I'm happy to do it. Frank Bordeaux, my predecessor, did a great job with the party, and we've had an incredible lineage of predecessors in the chairmanship: Lucian Smith, Joe Nosif, Arnie Hederman, Brad White. I mean, I could go on and on and on, all the way back to Wirt Yerger. But yeah, it's a lot to do, but it's an exciting role, and there are a lot of challenges, but there are a lot of opportunities.
Sure. Any big changes we're going to see in party operation that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to do is to really start raising money for the party again, really start beefing up staff again. Frank did a great job in renovating our party headquarters. It's beautiful. If you get a chance, come down there and see it sometime. But would really like to mobilize the troops on the ground out in the field, frankly, get them organized and really do what we're supposed to do as a state party, which is, elect Republicans, turn out the vote. So I think you're going to see it a lot, not just in increasing the staff and the visibility of the state party, but also increasing the ground game out in the field.
Well, you guys have been fairly successful, I would say, in the last
I think we've been
decade or
we've
two.
done okay, but there's always still work to do.
Are you not at saturation point, at least with the legislature?
No, I mean we do have obviously a supermajority in the legislature, every statewide office, but there's a lot out in the counties, a lot in the cities. There's still a lot to do, and frankly, what I would like to do, and this is going to be controversial, I'm sure, but what I'd like to do is to make sure all of our Republicans go back to the platform, go back to the principles that we hold dear as Republicans. Not to say there's not disagreements. I mean, I tell people all the time, I love my wife. We've been married happily for 26 years, but we do have a few disagreements. So it's not that you can't disagree, but I would like for folks, anytime policy's decided, considered, let's just weigh that against the principles that we hold as conservative Republicans.
Yeah. So I know.
I mean, you were dying to get in here, Taylor. Come on,
that's
let's
right.
Get in here.
I mean, it's going to be a pretty big election this year in November, not just for president, but also for the U.S. Senate with incumbent U.S. Senator Roger Wicker and Ty Pinkins is the Democratic challenger. What will sort of the operation sort of look like on y'all's end, and helping with that campaign and turning out the vote there? Just what are y'all doing to prepare for that race?
Yeah, right now, I'll be honest with you, what we're doing to prepare is for the Republican National Committee convention, which is in less than 30 days. So all focus is on that. It's on getting there. It's getting the delegates, the alternates, and everything to nominate President Donald Trump to be our Republican candidate. That being said, we are in heavy discussions about how to turn out the vote come November, how to help Senator Wicker. Frankly, I would like to see the party get involved and advocate for judicial candidates. I know it's a nonpartisan races, and I think there should be a clear dividing line between the campaigns for nonpartisan races and the partisan entities like the Republican Party. But at the same time, we all know that there are differences that judicial candidates hold in their opinions on how to interpret the Constitution, how to interpret statutes. So I don't want to give away too much of what we're going to do come November, but I think you will see much more activity from the state party, much more activity from our county parties. And I think you'll see a strong ground game, not just to turn out the vote, but, with my background, what I would like to see is a little more involvement from our legal side, and to make sure that we as Republicans believe we should make it easy to vote, but hard to cheat. And so I want to make sure that anyone who tries to come into our precincts and do any mischief, that we have people on the ground ready to catch that and report that, because I truly believe we're the party that really advocates for the rule of law. And with my background, I mean that's one of the most important things to me.
Well, so you brought judicial elections up.
Yeah,
I know, like you said, they're nonpartisan.
That's right.
But I don't think there's any prohibition from political parties endorsing candidates. Do y'all plan to make any?
In fact, the state Republican Party won a lawsuit in 2002. Yeah, so you guys are nodding your head. You already know this. To have the right, the First Amendment right to endorse candidates. So absolutely, I think we have that right. It's ensconced in the Bill of Rights, and I think we are going to take advantage of that. So, but again, let me emphasize, they are nonpartisan races, and so. What I would like to see, and there's no requirement of this, but what I would like to see as chairman is for both parties to clearly delineate between campaigns for nonpartisan office and the party activities, because I think there should be no coordination between those two. And maybe that's just my background in federal campaign finance and federal law, but I think that makes the most sense, frankly, for we as Mississippians.
In the past, we've seen with some of our Supreme Court races, in particular, a lot of third-party interest coming in once upon a time during the tort wars,
right?
The U.S. Chamber or whatever. Do you think we'll see that kind of interest in this year's?
I don't know. That's a great question, Geoff. I don't know. What I can tell you is, based upon what we saw last year, we saw a ton of outside influence coming into our governor's race.
Right.
And I think you can for sure see the opportunity and maybe even the possibility of that happening again, especially if you have very close contested races like I think we're probably going to have in some of these judicial races. Anytime there's an opportunity, people are going to take advantage of it.
Oh, right.
That's human nature, and you don't fault them for that. But we want to make sure that if you do take advantage of what is allowed in the law, that you actually follow the law. And I've read a lot about what you guys have written about, campaign finance in the state. From when I ran for AG, I was a huge proponent of campaign finance. You go back and look at I reported so much in my campaign finance. The Secretary of State at the time told me, stop itemizing so much.
I remember you provided it as an addendum to reporters.
Absolutely, because I think it's
appreciated.
important. No, and I think the public needs that, because I think we all benefit, especially as Mississippians, as citizens, when we have more transparency, more accountability. And so, again, like my background, federal prosecutor, I just think that's important, and so that's why I did that, and I continue to believe it's important for Mississippians.
You mentioned something a minute ago, early on, about getting back to platform or whatever with the Republican Party. We've seen, the Republican Party has grown and has supermajority. We've seen a lot of debate and agreement among Republican leadership.
Really? I haven't seen that. What are you talking about?
You might have noticed that this session, some pretty major divides there
Right.
on, for instance, eliminating the income tax, Medicaid expansion. Now that's one. What is the platform?
I looked at the platform again before I came here because I knew you were going to ask that question. The platform doesn't say anything about Medicaid expansion. What I think are public policymakers, and look, my job as chairman is to bring people together, to encourage and promote and push Republican candidates, and frankly, to elect Republican candidates. That being said, I think our public policymakers should weigh the party platform, which in my mind, as Mike Hurst, I'll take off party chairman hat for just a second, are we expanding government? Are we raising taxes? Are we making it such that our people are more dependent on government rather than, each other and the private sector? Again, it's not going to be that viewpoint is not going to be held by all, because that doesn't line up with what proponents of Medicaid expansion want, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, everything that I have tried to do in my life, and I've not been successful, I've not been error-free, but everything that I try to do is weigh it against the principles that I hold, and those are principles that I think we as conservative Republicans hold. And I will tell you, my wife, she voted against Medicaid expansion. She was one of only 20 Republicans in the House that voted against Medicaid expansion. But she has an even more interesting insight on that, because for the last 17 years since we've been back home in Mississippi, she's been doing ministry work in South and West Jackson, and she has seen things that probably most of those, what are we up to, 173 members of, not counting her, of the legislature probably have not seen, in the sense of just dependency upon government, and how that affects the human mind, and how it causes, mindset of victimization, a mindset of dependency, all these impractical things that you really can't measure, but you can see it. And so that, combined with our belief that we shouldn't continue to expand government, we shouldn't continue to raise taxes. And I hear all the arguments, and I understand that Mississippi will get a lot more money from the federal government if we do this. I get it. But what we forget in that debate is that federal money is still our taxpayer money. And, frankly, I would love to see the Republican Party get back to being the party of fiscal responsibility, because the $1 trillion in deficits that we continue to see growing, and from both parties over the last number of years, is not sustainable, and something has to be done. There has to be an adult in the room, and for my childhood, my teenage years, my formative years, the Republicans were the ones talking about fiscal responsibility.
I guess, though, in a state like Mississippi, the poorest or one of the poorest in the union, doesn't some of that ideology have to be tempered with pragmatism? For instance, when it comes to health care, right now, if your goal is a solution to our healthcare problems, honestly, as far as a ready solution, there's one game in town. It's $1 billion it's already being collected. Mm-hmm. If we don't accept it, it will go elsewhere. It's not like they're going to immediately quit collecting it.
Right. But let me ask you this. Let's Taylor, you and Geoff, take your wallets out. Let's put them on the table. Give me your credit cards. I'm going to walk down to the hospital, and I'm going to pay for people's health care on your credit cards. Nope, none of us in here would probably do that, because that tangibly, directly affects us. The difference here, what we're talking about, is intangible, indirect effects that people can't feel immediately, and it's almost like monopoly money. But it's not, because at the end of the day, your kids, your grandkids are going to be the ones paying for it. And let me tell you, this, I have a lot of kids. I hope to have a lot of grandkids.
Sure.
And they're going to be on the hook for it. And so I hear what you're saying, and my heart breaks for people. Absolutely. Again, Celeste saw that in the ministry work she's done. But at some point, we have to stop. We have to take a stand. And, we've done it, the debate about the 100% federal poverty line to 138%, all that stuff. I mean, there are things that have been done. That gap has been covered today, but some continue to try to expand it up to 138. I mean, I don't want to get into all the details because I'm not a policymaker. I wasn't elected to be a policymaker. All I'm saying is when we look at Medicaid expansion, we look at any issue that comes before the legislature, all I think is that the Republicans should weigh the principles that we hold dear and the platform and what we've believed for many years. And Mike Hurst personally, not party chairman, doesn't think Medicaid expansion fits those principles.
Again, though, you get into some areas, thanks to policy put forth by Ronald Reagan, I believe, in the mid-'80s, we're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Someone uninsured and sick walks in, we're going to pay for it in the least economical way possible through an ER.
Right, absolutely.
Uncompensated care.
It goes back.
Shy of expansion, what are some solutions?
Right, but it goes back to, when they started imposing seatbelts. I mean, the theory was if you get injured, we the taxpayers are going to pay for it. I mean, it never. If that's the argument, if that's the analogy, if that's the explanation, there's not going to be any stop to it. So if you go to 7-Eleven down the street and get a Big Gulp, I mean, we're all going to pay for that later. That you make those decisions. But at the end of the day, I mean, I would love to see, and I know everyone's human. I know I try to be a learner of human nature, and it's hard to change human nature. But I would hope, and maybe it's naive on my part, but I would hope we would try to focus on helping people make good choices, helping people, be empowered to make those good choices, so that they're not in those situations that are preventable. I know not every situation is preventable, but I think a lot of it is preventable.
Well, you mentioned you were taking off your chairman's hat. Obviously, Medicaid expansion is still a huge issue before our government. Is that going to be something the party would weigh in on, or have some sort of litmus test? Or
well, since I've been here for 4 weeks now, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but I'm not saying we would. I would have to have a lot of deliberations with our state executive committee, our central committee. Look, I'm not the czar. I'm not the king. I perceive my position or being put in this position as one of service. So I'm not going to mandate what our legislators should or should not do. I have to sleep with a legislator every night. And you know my wife. I've never told her anything to do. But I do think it needs to be. I think the focus needs to be back on our principles. And both sides have arguments. Both sides have some good arguments. But at the end of the day, I think if we don't take a stand as conservative Republicans as to our principles, we might as well just change them.
Yeah. You mentioned that your wife is a member of the House, and I say that to say one of the things that your predecessor, Frank Bordeaux, started at the party was, I believe, an initiative to reach out more and recruit more women, more candidates of color to run for office as Republicans.
Right.
Is that something that you think that you want to continue to build on, and how will that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I was actually at that announcement when Frank and them did the announcement at the party headquarters. Yeah, the winter program that General Fitch had headed up, and then the minority outreach program that Rodney Hall had headed up. I spoke to General Fitch the other day, and she said there are 51% of voters in Mississippi are women, yet we only have 16 members in the legislature. I mean, that's a pretty compelling number. Right. And so, yes, we are going to revitalize both of those programs. And I think you see, simply from the success that President Trump has had in the African-American community, tripling his support from just 4 years ago. And frankly, I would tell you, in speaking to my African American brothers and sisters behind the scenes, they believe what we believe. They believe in, smaller government. In my old job, actually enforcing the law, making communities safe, shutting down the border so that we actually have a nation that has borders. They believe in these things, but I think for so long, the Democratic Party has had such a strong hold on our African American brethren that it's hard for them just to be public about that and make a switch. Now, you have fiery folks like Rodney Hall now. You have Thomas Tuggle, sheriff up in DeSoto County. I mean, we have some very prominent Mississippi elected officials who are African American, but then you have some very prominent federal officials, such as Byron Donalds down in Florida, Wesley Hunt in Texas, that are all starting to speak out. And I truly believe that the Republican Party is gaining traction. We have to do a better job as a Republican Party to remind people that the Republican Party was founded in 1854 on the basis of abolishing slavery.
The Party of Lincoln.
The Party of Lincoln. I mean, when's the last time you heard that, Geoff?
Not a lot recently.
And I understand where we sit, and I understand our negative, sad history in this state. But we who live here, you guys, we love this state. But we've got to, as Republicans, not to shy away from being the party of Lincoln and being the party for things that are right. I mean, the perfect example of the Juneteenth celebration we just had, Republican Party should be embracing that with all the fervor and excitement that we have, because we are the party of freedom and liberty. And
speaking of policy, do you advocate that being a state holiday? Is that?
Thanks, Geoff. I actually, again,
you said it. You want to fully embrace it.
I do. I advocate that being a state holiday in replacement of Confederate Memorial Day. And I know that's going to rub a lot of folks the wrong way, especially my folks back home in Newton County, Mississippi. But I think, how can you argue with a holiday that celebrates freedom and liberty for all? I think that's, and again, I'm not the policymaker here. I'm glad we have policymakers, but I believe as a Republican Party, we can do more to espouse those ideals of freedom and liberty, not just, talk about them, but actually push them. So,
yeah. Looking ahead toward the future, I know 2027 is a long ways off, but that is the next.
It'll be here before you know it.
It'll be here before you know it. The next statewide election, that sort of back and forth that you and Geoff just had, I think will probably play out in the statewide election in the Republican primary. We could speculate all day long, but I think it's safe to say there will be a robust party primary, Republican primary. So I guess, I know you as chairman don't endorse any
That's
particular
right.
candidate, but how do you sort of, as chairman, keep the peace and after the primary sort of bring everyone together and mend fences? How do you foresee that playing out?
I don't know. Do you have any recommendations? Or? No, I do see my role as kind of a peacemaker, as a mediator. I mean, again, back to human nature, we all want certain things. We all strive for certain things. We don't all get along. I mean, some people just have different personalities. And so I do think it's the role of the party and the role of chairman to try to mend fences amongst our fellow Republicans. And frankly, just to remind them, I mean, let's be honest, when Republicans are fighting, Democrats are winning. And so, I look forward to 2027. I say that right now. I may be coming to regret those words. But right. I look forward in the sense of we will have a robust platform. We will have a ton of candidates. But I hope we as a party can just make sure they are focused back on the platform and back on the principles. And like you said, we don't endorse anyone in primaries, but once the primary is over, we're going to get after it when it comes to the statewide and other elections. So, it should be fun. I will tell you, in the 4 weeks or 5 weeks that I've been chairman, a lot of that has been mediating and arbitrating and just helping fellow Republicans make sure they focus on Republican things and not personalities, not hurt feelings, things like that. And we're making progress. I mean, it's baby steps, but I think we're heading in the right direction. But yeah, so we've got, what is that, 3 more years? So yeah, we got a little time. So
to maybe spice this podcast up a little bit.
I don't think you can get it more spicy.
Well,
Jeff.
I was going to say maybe we could get your
Wow.
we could get your reaction to a couple of things.
You're probably already going to win a Pulitzer for this one. So
Your
ahead.
opposing party just here recently has taken a couple of interesting actions. One of them being to call for a boycott of the state fair. What's your reaction to that? What did you think when you saw that one?
Look, I have friends who are Democrats, and I know we Republicans are not supposed to say that, but I have friends who are Democrats. But when I saw that, I mean, really, frankly, it just made me think that the state Democratic Party has no substantive ideas. And now, instead of actually proposing substantive ideas that's going to make that are going to make the lives of Mississippians better, they say things like, "We're going to boycott a state, one of the biggest state functions that we have as a state." I mean, that's to me, that's kind of petty. It didn't really make sense other than just wanting publicity. And so, I mean, when you start politicizing things like the state fair, I don't know what kind of world we're living in at that point. So anyway, I saw that, and I just kind of scratched my head and said, okay, let's have a debate on the policy issues rather than saying, okay, if you support your presidential candidate, we're going to support a boycott of a nonpartisan state function that every Mississippian enjoys. And every Mississippian spends a ton of money at. I can't tell you how much money I've spent at the state fair with 6 kids. But to do that in response of supporting a presidential candidate just doesn't make any sense to me.
Speaking of presidential politics or whatever, a lot of times people in Mississippi have complained we get ignored sometimes in the presidential race. Do you think we'll get any attention here? Not that we're a swing state or huge electoral state, but
I don't think we've, at least on the Republican side, I don't think we've been ignored in the past. I mean, we've had some of the most prominent Republican candidates over the last 20 or 30, 40 years either visit the state, send very high-level surrogates to the state. And frankly, and the treatment that our delegation, Republican delegates and alternates get at the RNC convention every 4 years is incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. So no, I at least on the Republican side, I don't think we'll be slighted. I don't know. I can't answer that on the Democratic side, but I mean, if I were a Democrat, I would probably never visit Mississippi as a presidential candidate because you're not going to win our state. That's just numbers. It's just numbers. But no, at least on the Republican side, I don't see us being slighted at all.
You think we'll see Donald Trump at the Neshoba Fair this year?
You know what? I mean, can you predict what Donald Trump's going to do?
No, I can't.
Okay,
Can you?
No, I don't.
Okay,
No, I
yeah.
don't think anybody can. And I
can.
think he loves that. And frankly, I think that's why the American people love it, because they can't predict what he's going to do. So I can see him doing a number of things coming to Mississippi. I mean, just think about when he was president. He came to Biloxi. He came to Tupelo. He came. I mean, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't rule anything out. We would love to have him. The door is always open, and you will see after Commissioner Andy Gibson put on that Trump rally here in Jackson, you're going to see other Trump rallies around the state. We hear Trump rallies being organized on the Gulf Coast, in DeSoto County, I think maybe in Tupelo. So there are going to be other Trump rallies around the state. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the president were to show up in Mississippi at one point.
Okay, well, we'll start that Neshoba County rumor today. We just did.
Yeah. I believe, fact check me on this, but I believe we had Donald Trump Jr. show up at the Neshoba County Fair a number of years ago.
Twice, perhaps.
Is that right?
I believe he did show up twice.
So,
yeah. Well,
if he does show up, we'll remember that we started that rumor here,
right,
on this
trust me,
podcast.
I know you guys will be on the front row if he shows up.
That's right.
Are there any other changes or issues you think you'll be you'll be tackling?
No, I mean, again, it's 4 weeks into the job, and maybe you should have waited and asked me 6 months from now. But no, we've got a number of ideas. Again, I'm not going to repeat what I've already said, but there's a number of things that are in the works that we want to do, but mainly just getting the party back to the robust state it once was. And look, let's be honest. I mean, we have been successful. We do have every statewide elected official. We do have a supermajority in the House and the Senate. But I will tell you, I think, because we have been so successful, the party has kind of gone down in terms of funding, gone down in terms of manpower and staff, and I see that as a real opportunity to beef that back up and to help the grassroots, because let's be honest, the men and women who are out in the counties, who are chairing the executive committees of our county parties, they're the ones that are doing the real work on the ground. They're the ones that are organizing the precincts. They're the ones that are organizing the boots on the ground. And I see the role of the party, at least one of the roles of the party, is really to support those men and women and try to get that built back up. And so I think you're going to see a lot of building, a lot of growing, and a lot more activity from the state party over the next however many years they want me to serve. So,
well, we appreciate you coming in today, and
absolutely,
and
thanks for
hope
inviting.
You will do so from time to time and keep us up to date, especially as we get closer to November and then get closer to 27.
Absolutely, happy to.
Okay, well, congratulations on the
thank
new
you.
job. Our condolences, whichever is more in order.
Yeah, the honeymoon period is nice right now. Check back with me in about a year. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
As we cover the biggest political stories in the state, you don't want to miss an episode of The Other Side. We'll bring you more reporting from every corner of the state, sharing the voices of Mississippians and how they are impacted by the news. So what do we need from you, the listener? We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes or Stitcher, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That address is podcast@MississippiToday.org. Y'all can also reach out to me or any of my colleagues through social media or email. And as always, thank you for your feedback and support. Subscribe to our weekly podcast on your favorite podcast app or stream episodes online at MississippiToday.org/theotherside. For the Mississippi Today team, I'm Adam Ganeshow. The Other Side is produced by Mississippi Today and engineered by Blue Sky Studios. We hope you'll join us for our next episode.